Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. The Honourable Prime Minister, the Honourable Leader of Opposition, Honourable Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, Nisabula Vinaka, and a very good afternoon to you all. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to contribute to the motion before the House, and I'd like to thank His Excellency the President for his most gracious speech. Mr. Speaker, sir, before I continue, I wish to respond to comments made by Honourable Mikhaele on the subject of technical colleges earlier this morning. For the information of this August Parliament, all technical colleges teaching staff were given the opportunity to decide whether to remain with the Ministry of Education or join the Fijian National University when the technical colleges were being transferred. Mr. Speaker says some of these staff opted to remain with the ministry, while most of them chose to join the Fijian National University under the National University's terms and conditions. For the information of the House, the Fijian National University is governed by an independent council which makes decisions on their day-to-day operations. Mr. Speaker said those staff that will be made redundant are free to apply for a position within the Ministry of Education, and of course they will be considered for these positions for the year 2021. Mr. Speaker said, please allow me to proceed with my contribution to the motion before the House. We all can agree with His Excellency about the enormous impact about COVID-19 and the impact it has had on the world and continues to have as infection rates soar and millions of lives are lost. Thousands of businesses have closed down, probably never to reopen again. Mr. Speaker says some of the largest economies in the world have been brought down to their knees by this pandemic. Through the strong leadership of our Honourable Prime Minister, we have been able to protect our people, both in terms of lives and livelihood. The Fijian people have witnessed firsthand through this unprecedented crisis that the strong leadership of our Prime Minister and his ability to keep at least this side of the House united is what our country needs. Our amazing frontline staff are working tirelessly day and night to keep us safe, and they must be commended for. But as His Excellency said, Mr. Speaker, sir, we must remain vigilant if we are to continue to survive this pandemic as a nation. Never before has it been more important for us to stand together in solidarity as we combat this deadly and unprecedented virus. Mr. Speaker said, regardless of which religion or denomination we belong to, we must all pray for the world. For our country, we must pray for our families and, of course, for our fellow Fijians. Fiji is a secular state, and every Fijian has a right to practice their religion as enshrined in our 2013 Fijian Constitution. Our religious events such as Christmas, Easter, Diwali, Eid are so important because they give our fellow Fijian brothers and sisters who celebrate these occasions hope. Mr. Speaker said, hope is something that we must all count on. It was very heartbreaking to see bigoted statements recently on social media which hurt so many of our brothers and sisters during the Festival of Lights. Statements such as these which demand that religious groups inhibit their celebrations have no place and should have no place in the Fijian society, and most certainly not under this leadership. Mr. Speaker said the vast majority of Fijians are good people, and the response against these bigoted statements was strong and swift. Fijians of all backgrounds took to Facebook and social media to quickly denounce these statements and supported their fellow Fijians. This is proof that the Fijian people, filled with the Fijian spirit, make our country the best in the world. Mr. Speaker, say in future, as members of this August Parliament, let us all pledge to set good examples for the sake of our young ones and for the sake of our people. COVID-19 has shown us that we cannot afford to be divided. We cannot afford to divide our people, but we need to be there to help our people work together, many of whom look up to us for guidance, and as honourable members of the House, we must guide them with honour and integrity. Mr. Speaker, say while COVID-19 has impacted and changed most aspects of everyone's lives, one of the most vulnerable groups that we must fight tooth and nail for are our children. According to the United Nations policy brief, Education during COVID-19 and beyond, I quote, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the largest disruption to education in history, having already had a near universal impact on learners and teachers around the world, from pre-primary to secondary schools, technical and vocational education and training institutions, universities, adult learning and skills development establishment. By mid-April 2020, 94% of learners worldwide were affected by this pandemic, representing 1.58 billion children and youth from pre-primary to higher education in 200 countries. The disruption caused by COVID-19, Mr. Speaker said, to everyday life meant that as many as 40 million children worldwide have missed out on early childhood education in the critical preschool year, unquote. Mr. Speaker said, education of our young ones has been the casualty of COVID-19 around the globe. Thus, when COVID-19 first hit our shores, we knew that education would be severely impacted, and we needed to minimize the impact and ensure our children continued to get educated. A key aspect of returning to normalcy was ensuring that we could still access our basic rights, such as right to health, right to work, right to economic participation, and of course, education. We needed to be smart and innovative, and we implemented an array of strategies to keep students up to date with their curriculum. One of the first things that the Minister of Education did, Mr. Speaker said, was to take supplementary school curriculum online, on television, and on radio. At this point in time, I'd like to thank Rosy for partnering with the Ministry to reach out to students through the television platform. This not only enabled our children to continue learning while the lockdown precautions were implemented, but it also allowed parents to be more directly involved in their children's education. Through our strict protocols, visitor policies, hygiene standards that we implemented in schools across the country, we were able to get our children back into the critical learning environment, that is the school, while keeping them safe with an added layer of protection. Mr. Speaker, our universities took classes online, and they were able to do so because of the infrastructure that existed, which allowed Fijians from all over the countries to be online. Fiji First government had seen the need for such infrastructure earlier on, and we had invested substantially in this to ensure that our people were not left behind and were on par with the rest of the world. Mr. Speaker said this week 20,627 Fijian students are sitting for the Year 12 and Year 13 external examinations. I'd like to wish all our students and of course the parents the very best for their children's success in their final examinations. Mr. Speaker, again, I was appalled at some comments made recently on social media spreading misinformation and panic among students and parents. At a critical time, when students and parents needed to focus on the final examination, some decided to use the examinations to gain some media attention. The student subsidized e-ticketing cards were earlier restricted to only be usable from certain time to stop the large number of students who were abusing to skip school and get up to mischief during and after school hours. We also found out that some parents were abusing these cards. This year, 6,188 students appearing for the national examinations will be affected by these new time restrictions. But Mr. Speaker said, the Ministry has taken full responsibilities to ensure that the transport is available for these students so they could be transported directly home after the examinations. Neither the students nor their parents will pay a single cent, and parents wishing to pick up their students after examinations are most welcome to do so. Unfortunately, on the eve of examinations, Mr. Speaker said, misleading statements were made insinuating that students will somehow be deprived of education because the free education grant was being used to arrange transportation so children can go home safely to their parents. Absolute nonsense. Mr. Speaker said, we as honourable members of this August Parliament should ensure that we know and understand all the facts before making such statements. Our statements can have a huge impact on our people. In this case, the statements cause confusion, fear among Fijian parents and students, distracting them from important studies. Parents can be rest assured, Mr. Speaker, sir, that their government is utilising and using budgeted allocations within our 2021 budget and managing funds wisely to fully benefit our children. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is indeed true that Fiji's economic recovery is at stake, and we must do everything we can to assure our road to recovery. Our young ones, our students, play an important part in that recovery. They are the future workforce, the future entrepreneurs and employers, and they must be given the education and tools they need to turn their dreams and ambitions into reality. Mr. Speaker said more than 230,000 Fijian students returned to school on 6 July 2020 after 3 months away from school. During the school closure period, we continued to provide children with the much needed support to stay engaged with their schoolwork. We realigned our curriculum to ease the academic pressure on our students and realigned the school terms to compensate for the absent school time. Mr. Speaker, the 2020-2021 Fijian national budget enabled us to continue with the many great initiatives that directly benefit our Fijian children from all backgrounds. Initiatives such as free tuition fee and free textbooks will continue to ensure that thousands of Fijian children get an education. A total of 151,692 primary school students and a total of 64,019 secondary schools were assisted through free education in the last financial year alone. Subsidized bus fare ensures that children from low-income families have the opportunity to reach school and go back home on time. This financial year, Mr. Speaker, a total of 70,801 students have been assisted through the subsidized bus fare and 32,927 students through the rural transport vouchers. Despite the reduction in our budget this financial year, we continue to assist a total of 103,728 students through the Fijian government student subsidized transport assistance initiative. Mr. Speaker, we continue to provide funding to 44,812 students pursuing tertiary education through National Toppers Scholarship Scheme and Tertiary Education Loan Scheme. The Fiji First government has taken a lot of responsibilities off the shoulders of parents to ensure that their children continue to have universal access to free quality education at all levels. Mr. Speaker, we are very mindful as a government that families face even more hardship today due to COVID-19, and the government remains committed to providing free education, free textbooks, free bus fare subsidization. Mr. Speaker, as honourable members of this Parliament, we need to ensure that our children are fully equipped to handle the challenges of the future, some of which may be even worse than COVID-19, and heaven forbid that. The participation of parents in a child's growth and the educational process is critical, as children tend to perform better academically when parents are more engaged in their schoolwork. I call upon all parents to be mindful of their children, the company they keep, the peer pressure and the movements in this coming school holidays. I also call upon the members of this House to please use every opportunity to promote good parenting within your communities so that we bring up our children with good values and a lot of discipline. Mr. Speaker, recently we have been made aware of a lot of indiscipline issues occurring outside school hours, and we urge community leaders, we urge faith-based organizations, of course, we urge parents to be mindful of their children's behavior. The Ministry will continue to work together with relevant stakeholders, organizations and individuals who have interest of our children at heart. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency said, and I quote, "The immediate action taken by the Fijian government has protected and continues to safeguard our citizens," unquote. The Ministry is still the largest civil service employer, employing over 13,500 staff, out of which 13,192 are teachers. We have 1,422 early childhood teachers, 6,188 primary school teachers, and 5,582 secondary school teachers. We have plans to recruit a further 65 early childhood care teachers, 90 primary and 95 secondary school teachers this financial year, positions which will be created through retirements, resignations, deaths and migration. Mr. Speaker, while we continue to safeguard teachers and students, the Ministry is also focused on continuously improving learning facilities for our children. We continue to work with the Construction Implementation Unit within the Ministry of Economy in our schools' rehabilitation programs. Rehabilitation works for the schools in Southern Lao and Kandavu will continue into the next school year. Mr. Speaker, we are very grateful to the Embassy of Japan, who has come on board for the Adopt a School program and has donated close to 3 million Fijian dollars to assist in the reconstruction works of the completely destroyed buildings at Kandavu Provincial Secondary School, Bunisea Secondary School, and Richmond Methodist High School. The Ministry of Infrastructure has already completed drawings for Category 5 cyclone-resilient buildings. They'll be working closely with our ministry officials to see these projects are completed satisfactorily. The Ministry has also received a budget of around $2.6 million to go towards some of our ongoing school projects, and of course this includes upgrading and maintenance, as well as some new construction works across the country. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has also reminded us how important health is, and I echo the sentiments of His Excellency that the health of every Fijian is essential to our recovery, and this is especially true of our young ones. DFET, through UNICEF, has donated $1.4 million to undertake the maintenance and upgrading of our existing wash facilities as well as construction of new wash facilities in selected schools around the country. And of course, wash facilities is especially important in this new normal. They have also assisted us in providing soap for the school's hand washing programs, which is targeted to improve health and hygiene standards for all our school children. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry is working with relevant stakeholders and donor agencies to develop online content and rebuild a more resilient education system. Last month, the Ministry launched the Pacific Regional Channel through its partnership with the Commonwealth of Learning that is populated with the video content which is accessible through mobile devices and devices with internet connectivity, providing learning materials for teachers and students. Mr. Speaker, the Fijian government is fully committed to providing students with opportunities to engage with e-learning tools. Mr. Speaker, another reality rightly highlighted by His Excellency when he opened Parliament is climate change. I fully agree with His Excellency that the oceans and the climate crisis have not stopped for this global pandemic. The disasters associated with climate change are upon us and are likely to continue to become more intense and more frequent in future. And it is our children who will have to face them when we are no longer there. Sorry, it should be when we are no longer here. We will ensure, as a ministry, that climate change continues to be discussed in schools and our students are fully versed with the causes and effects of climate change. I know that our teachers are true Fijian heroes who are striving to educate our young ones in the new normal. Mr. Speaker, these are extraordinary times for Fijians. This is the time to show resilience and work together for the benefit of all of us, including our children. So far, we have together withstood every challenge that COVID has thrown at us. We know that the hard times are not quite yet over, and it will of course require more hard work, but unity and sacrifice, if we have to do, we will get us through all this. We have risen as a nation again and again from many challenges in our history, and I have faith in our leadership and our unity. We cannot afford to squabble right now when so many of our people are suffering. This isn't about politics or power. This is about the future of our great nation. This is about what you and I can do to improve the lives of our people. I thank His Excellency for his powerful and inspiring opening address and for the wisdom he brings us as we tackle these issues that affect our nation today. Before I take my seat, Mr. Speaker, I wish to put on record our appreciation to all our ministry stakeholders, our international donor partners, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, and supporters who have supported us and continue to do so as we endure the impacts of this pandemic. Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to wish all the members of this August Parliament compliments of the coming season, joy and good tidings. May you all have a restful, safe and a peaceful Christmas, and may the new year brings good tidings for all of us. And Mr. Speaker, I also would like to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.